holds the record for the most rushing yards in a playoff game. This is an astounding number. You thought the picture of Andre the Giant was amazing. He rushed for 248 yards in a playoff game. If you were a team and ran for 250 yards, that means you just dominated the game. And Eric is joining us live, the Hall of Famer. Do you remember that game? What do you remember about that
game? Yes, I remember, because it was against the Cowboys, and I hated the Cowboys. And it felt so good to give it to them, and all my friends back in Texas watched. So most definitely do I remember it. I remember the one play I remember the most was the first play after half. I had a 62-yard touchdown, so that's the one that really sticks out to me.
You're the only kid I've ever known. You grew up in Texas, and you hated the Cowboys. Have you ever explained that? Why is that?
You know why? Because, they always talked about I hated that America's team thing. Yeah, America's team. I mean, that's not my team. So I became a Steeler fan because they used to beat the Cowboys. And I did like the Houston Oilers because they were in Houston, but I became a Steeler fan because they beat the Cowboys.
So let's talk about this. Derrick Henry, Tennessee, he just joined a list of 8 players to rush for 2,000 yards in a season. So Tennessee's a dangerous team. When you ran for 2,000 yards in a season like Derrick Henry, were you exhausted by the time the playoffs arrived?
No, it really wasn't. And I don't think he is either. When the playoffs is a different level. When you get to the playoffs, you go into another gear, especially if you think that you have a chance to win. And I think they have a chance to win because Derrick Henry and the way they can run the football. The defense is not very good. But, no, I mean, I felt good. The big thing is injuries, Colin. How beat up are you? I wasn't beat up. And you watch Derrick Henry, I don't think he's beat up because, frankly, no one wants to tackle him. Everybody's afraid to hit him.
Then let's talk about this. I had Tony Gonzalez on yesterday, and he talks about this. He said, listen, the playoffs are different. Some guys shrink, and some guys are built for it. So you were in 6 different years you went to the playoffs. You tell me, did it feel different? Did the games feel different to you?
Oh, most definitely. I mean, the games felt you as fast as the National Football League, as fast as football is, when you get to the playoffs, it's even faster. I mean, it's more physical. Now you wonder, how can it be more physical? Because I mean, people you're fighting for a spot. You're fighting for that ultimate trophy, that ultimate award, and that's the Super Bowl. So for sure, it gets faster, quicker. And some guys can't play to it. I mean, they really just it's too big of a stage. And I loved it. I really did love it in the playoffs. It was fun being in the playoffs. And I always say, I think about my worst games. One of my worst games ever came in the playoffs, playing against the Washington Redskins. Had 3 fumbles. Darryl Green caught me from the back. I mean, that was my worst game today in history. But, I love it in the playoffs.
Yeah. So the Rams take on Seattle. They just played a couple weeks ago. And they were in that game until the very end. Russell Wilson had a great final drive. That's why he's paid a lot of money. And when you play in the playoffs, Cleveland has to play Pittsburgh again, back-to-back. Your thoughts on the Rams facing Seattle again, and the idea that you face a division rival for a 3rd time, Eric, it doesn't seem to me like you could do anything to fool them at this point.
It's hard to beat a team twice. That's why usually in the division you have a tendency to split with that team unless you're just that much better. We've always had the Seattle Seahawks number to a sense, and they had ours too. I mean, as good as they were when they were winning Super Bowls and getting into the playoffs and going deep into the playoffs, the Rams played them very well in the Jeff Fisher days, even though we couldn't score, but the defense was great. And it's still right now, defense is playing great. They know the Seahawks know us. I really believe that you're going to say upset. I'm looking for an upset in this game because we should have won that game up in Seattle. If it wasn't for, I really believe, the turnover, the pass that Jared Goff threw, the interception, I don't know who he was throwing to instead of running the football. But if you take that out and we score, I think we win that football game because the defense in a different mindset. When you throw an interception or turnover, it puts your it deflates your football team. So me personally, I think we can beat the Seahawks, and I do like the quarterback because he can scramble.
Yeah, well, let's talk about that, John Wolford. I said this year it was the first time that I watched Jared Goff and Sean McVay. It was the first time that I thought, I'm not sure if this is a good fit. McVay likes to roll the pocket constantly. Goff's not a running quarterback. He's kind of your classic sit in the pocket quarterback. And then I watch John Wolford, and I'm like, that feels like more stylistically what Sean McVay wants. Do you think it's possible? I watched the body language of McVay this year, that deep down, we may have a problem in the next year or two. Goff and McVay, they just don't fit each other stylistically on what they can do or what they want to do.
Well, look, McVay inherited Jared Goff. He didn't draft him. That wasn't the guy that he said, okay, this is the guy. Well, this is the guy I'm willing to give up two number one draft picks for. I mean, when you look at it, you're right. I think McVay is an offensive mind, great offensive mind, but his quarterbacks have been mobile. I mean, the days of the drop back quarterback are over. If you can't run and throw the football and really roll the pocket and be a threat to run, it's going to be hard to be successful in the National Football League. You look at Deshaun Watson. You look at Jason Herbert. You look at the young quarterbacks. These guys, Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson has always been that threat of running and throwing. If you can't do that, it's going to be hard to be successful in the NFL now, because these defenses, they're smart. They can run also. But if you have a quarterback that can run. So me personally, I feel like this guy, John Wolford, is more of a McVay-type quarterback. Now, is he the guy that's going to take us to the promised land? I'm not saying that. He only played one football game. But in that one game, and just take away the one interception, and that's what it was. I mean, I know he's nervous because everyone has the nerves going to a game he'd never played before. He played a great game. I mean, I think he executed McVay's plan, offensive plan, very well. Yeah. And I think McVay kept saying, I'm comfortable with him. I trust him. And that's the big thing. He says, I trust him.
Yeah. Finally, so I didn't love what Doug Peterson did, pulling a starting quarterback in a winnable game. You just tell me as a player, what would be your feeling if you, in week 17, if a coach did that to your offense and your team?
I'd have been pissed. I mean, I think it showed a lot of the players. Some of the players wanted to go up to him, and they had to be restrained. I mean, because let me tell you something, man. It's hard to win in the NFL. You don't care if it's the last game, the first game. When you're playing a football game, you're laying it all on the line. You're getting hit, you're getting hurt, you're getting beat up, and what for? Not to lose. You don't want to give up. Even if it's the last game of the season, you want to win that football game. If that would have said, if I was playing that game and he'd have pulled me out, and I'm like, why? Well, because it's the last. No, I mean, we're trying to win. It's the thing about in sports, especially the National Football League, Colin, it's all about wins and losses. It don't care how you get them or when they come.